1854. Humanism should be part of the integration of the state. But this can only fully happen when everyone independently develops the spiritual character of experiencing the processes of his life. And this requires greater attention in looking at the purpose of life. Time must be found for reflection, but the system tells us to work a lot to avoid thinking, and there is a problem. 1855. Today there is a system in place that has nothing to do with love. Where there is competition for offices, favors, dignities, economy, and personal wallet, there it does not exist. You can hold the highest offices on earth and in the galaxy, but you must not desire it in a vain way or boast about it. You must then be the greatest servant in this world without humility and pride. Then they will believe in your purity, and you yourself will remain pure. Such an attitude will be easily noticed and appreciated, without undue frustration or criticism, by every human medium and children too, the purest part of our society, uninvolved in anything except the desire to play for happiness. 1856. The democratic monarchy that Plato was convinced of will prevail in Poland. A monarchy renewed and improved, but deeper and nobler than it has functioned so far in our country. Already slowly this invisible process has begun. In Poland there will be a return to the king, but he will no longer be called that. The words of Padre Pio. 1857. Do you know how to pass the test in suffering from suffering? Difficult. It takes a lot of patience, and love is precisely patient. So it works out well. 1858. Love on earth has many colors. One of them is to sacrificially stand by those who are suffering, like a mother by her sick child. It is best when one understands suffering, to know why it appeared in the cosmos. Then we will be even more compassionate to others in their spiritual and physical troubles. 1859. Don't limit holiness to the knowledge and weaknesses that you have. Others don't have that much of a problem with it. 1860. Life is freedom. Freedom secures man's happiness and dignity, perfects truth and sculpts wisdom in us. Does it always? Surely not always, because here we get to know life in parts. There are boring gaps that need to be filled with something. And it comes out differently with this. Therefore, education in the subject of freedom and cosmology is needed. The human mind abhors emptiness, Padre Pio's words. Asylum of humanism. Even the most powerful force of the human mind is sometimes offended by the colorlessness of humanism. Total unity is pierced by the arrows of non-fiction, nature. Hence, so little emerging energy of crowned victorious humanism. The world is a simple recitation of reflections to concrete action by the force of anthropological revelations of the value of all imperfect reality. Thus, the maturity of criticism in any arrangement of mental sensations indicates the natural processes, accomplishing the unification of bondage of the world with the freedom of heaven. 1861. Tantrism is overrated, and especially Chinese. There some still feel its ideas. To be in such close union with someone, both souls must feel the same, but in their own way. The basis is a lost soul in God. Then time and rapture can last for a very long time, and the recipient of the relationship of delight is God. The soul gives it back to him with pleasure, itself taking pleasure unconsciously, without being fully aware of it. Perdition. Human sex, but not for procreation, sets the soul in a very positive mood for mystical union with God. Sex inflames the soul, Padre Pio's words. Even smarter animals like dolphins do it. They often do it for pleasure. However, partnership, especially in humans, is a serious problem. Egoism and nosiness, jealousy spoil relationships. 1862. Sublimely you must pray to God that He will help you live according to universal knowledge. Christ, among all the wise men of this world, had the most interesting, the best, very spiritual and practical approach to life. He understood a lot, knew the knowledge of aliens, of the angels who came out of heaven, and created the conditions for a fatal life in space. He told the chosen ones about all this, but this is no longer written down. Besides, the Bible itself says that the books would run out if it came to writing down what Jesus said. Besides, the Gospels were so constructed by experts to manipulate people as much as possible. The Roman Empire was collapsing, so there was an opportunity to attract voters of the new faith. The church authorities cared a lot about this. Jesus was someone completely different from what the original writings say about him. Even then, they were lying as much as they could. The nascent new political faith, by definition, had to lie in order to have a breakthrough and unassailable arguments. Dogmas of faith were created in the name of politics, which were changed and modified over the centuries, and in their name unbelievers were murdered. Jesus did not build a single church, Padre Pio's words. And what do we have today? The church has turned into the world's largest business enterprise. How do people live, and how do priests live? Rather, there is a big difference. How to unscrew all this, so that the church does not drown souls in ignorance, and so that they not prolong their lives in heavy suffering. Cold-cause space civilizations, a difficult matter. 1863, also learn to live in hiding from creatures and people. This hiding is a fortified fortress inside you. Inside yourself you will find amazing treasures. There begins the world of your all-happiness and friendly forms that will satisfy you. Yes, you look outside, but to experience it inside your fortress. Inside means another world, a more original one, which you don't see yet. But someday you will see it. There are two outer worlds, one utopian, that is, the material universe, made by us in ancient times as an independent zoo, and the other, the outer one in heaven created by God, also material, but the matter there is perfect. Rather, look for the latter world, to which Jesus and Plato point. 1864. To be only for God and to sacrifice oneself for Him. This means to be all things to all people at the same time. It means to be love itself, and love is above all, gentle, good, tolerant, non-offensive, and above all, attractive and interesting. Every day I see your guardian angel in a different dress, Padre Pio's words to me. 1865. Do not desire such emotions to judge anyone. This means freedom. What does it matter before God if someone thinks badly or well of you? It doesn't mean anything. Only God is the Alpha and Omega of any righteous judgment. If you act in such a way that you are pure in soul, that is enough. Others can only judge you, disagree with you, look at you through glasses of good or evil. But it doesn't matter to you. You have your truths and your glasses, and nothing to others to them. Jesus says clearly, judge not, and you will not be judged. I know how complicated psychological processes are when it comes to matters of responsibility. But let's abandon these teachings, because they are worthless. Let's just stick to God. Let's not even believe the Bible. What do we care about some Jewish truth? The Old Testament should already have been forgotten. The words of Padre Pio. Hold on to the Spirit of God, who once created your soul and you still use it today. God comes first, not religious laws or culturally racist habits. And so what if you are right? Anyone can challenge those rationales. Think in your own way. You are no own extension. The words of Padre Pio. 1866. God knows and knows everything, so it may turn out that He is more just than our peaceful holiness, in the name of which, religiously mannered, we may kill others. Yes, God is above religions and will surely judge justly. If someone kills in the name of an ideology, for example, religion, and is happy about it, he will certainly not be saved so immediately. He has to pay back those killed lives. Let him not think for himself. He will blow himself up, kill hundreds of people, and what? Nothing. Heaven for that. Let's not exaggerate. Let's use some sense. He will certainly pay for the assassination. He will have to pay off the unfinished lives of others on various planets, unless those people after death are merciful enough and forgive him from the heart. Then his punishment will change. Something else I will say, Lenin wrote and did terrible stupid things, but not only him, e.g. Brezhnev, similarly others, to this day do not see heaven, said Padre Pio. Until people forget his false writings, he will have to pay the debts of others infected by his writings. It's not as easy as the assassins of the caliphate think. They are mistaken. They are not telling these young people the whole truth. ideological backwardness reaching the bottom. It's a pity for these people, because again they have to be born in a galaxy full of hardship and suffering to pay back their evil, criminal acts. If I were to give Islamists any advice at this stage, let them convert to Catholicism. All is one. They will do well. It is currently the most appropriate and peaceful religion based on love of neighbor in deeds, feelings, and thoughts. This is what I wish them from the heart. The best thing is to be a non-religious and non-racist person, but a believer in the God of love and mercy. Only this saves the soul, gives it the desire to strive for perfection. If already, of the current religions, the most appropriate is Catholic, Padre Pio's words. And what was he to say, as religions are very many and often not good. Even atheism already has the hallmarks of religion, but as if inverted. 1867. The Bible, Muslim writings. These are human books of certain circles and are not inspired at all. If they are inspired, it is by evil extraterrestrial civilizations that drown us in ignorance of God's world. The closest thing to sublimity is the Bhagavad Gita, as far as human wisdom is concerned. In it there is still something left of the spirit, Padre Pio's words. It's just that there were some wiser people there, not like the nomadic Jewish people to whom Jesus was born from heaven to convert them. 2,000 years have passed, and they haven't budged a bit in progress. They only possess nuclear bombs to frighten the whole world. America, Israel, two nephews. Muslims have the same because it's the same land. Fierce to the end, 1868. In material galaxies, in selfish civilizations fighting each other, no one can talk to God. There is no possibility to do so. This world is not the work of God or his consciousness. He only allowed it to come into existence through the stubborn freedom of his children. So it came into existence. He allowed the same hellish religions that the angels invented for themselves. These religions, as you can see, have been merely fighting each other to the death over material and even spiritual life for thousands of years. The cosmos exists in a deplorable state. Scientists, astrophysicists, physicists, mathematicians, astronauts delight in it. And it is, after all, a mere tease, transforming and killing to survive in a world of humans, animals, and bacteria, failed angelic products. There is nothing to admire. It's just a game of pretending infinity and eternity. The cosmos seems eternal and infinite. Wrong, it is finite, and it has limits. The cosmos is a soap bubble in which only the transformation of matter takes place. The world is very inexpertly, even infantile designed, catastrophically. We are threatened by meteorites, which will eventually hit the earth again. For man, the cosmos has no limits. For God, it has limits. Padre Pio's words. 1869. The quality of freedom depends on us. This is what God decided when he gave us freedom at the core. Let's respect that and do nobility above self, always. Then we will look through the crack into heaven while still being human. 1870. Avoiding answers, silence is allowed. Not everyone can know everything. Without a foundation of love, knowledge can harm and inflate the ego, create views, beliefs, and habit, which are very dangerous, especially when persistently demonstrated. Unpleasant clashes then occur. Knowledge itself is very dangerous. In the head of a heartless angel, it can become an instrument of dangerous law that destroys others. 1871. The point is not to divide people, but to unite. Want to understand this? Views, beliefs, and resistance are not a good platform for unity. If partners in love argued about everything all the time, nothing would come out of their love. The same is true in life. One can have own view of this or that because we have different talents of perception. But one must also try to understand others in their outlook. This is not easy to do. To be yourself and at the same time not to argue is quite a complicated matter. It is difficult to stand down and easy to fire a bullet. Bullets of this type can hurt many. 1872. There are matters to which there are no immediate answers, at least not for every angel. It depends on the degree of spiritual training, not human intelligence. Man is just a human being fitted into a weak body after the loss of love and truth billions of years ago. Rebuilding this loss is not easy. We push ourselves into religions, dogmatism, national identities, sects, universities of spiritual and material ignorance, begging and wealth. All this is evidence of our backwardness. We're not moving much forward despite huge libraries, schools, and space flights. Rather, spiritually, we are going backwards. Individually, it is possible to move forward, but as a civilization, we are heading into emptiness and freezing. And regarding this, according to new theories, the cosmos is expanding so fast and moving one galaxy away from another that eventually we will run out of fuel and everything will freeze. But that won't happen tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Hope is in the soul because it is eternal, and you have to start thinking about it. 1873. With thinking and feeling, a spiritual reactor of wonderful experiences is aroused. Thanks to the thinking of the soul, we fly all the time towards eternal palaces. So, what happens is what the most outstanding, universal, non-religious, and non-denominational thinker, Jesus, suggested. Seek first the kingdom of heaven. Heaven can only be found through the soul. There is no other way. Not through the body, because it will think that heaven is here. Well, unless he gets the hang of it and desires an eternal body integrated perfectly with the soul. This is possible. This is already a serious reflection. 1874. We must constantly develop our spirituality, and at the same time know that the Spirit who created us a free soul will always help us in this work. A parent always takes care of his children. That's the way it is. But if the children mature, they go their own way. We so once decided that we would create our heaven beyond God. And a cosmos was created that scares us today. We created hell. We didn't have to do it. The consequences are incalculable, very bad for us. We have to die and finish each other all over again. This is how we invented the cosmos in search of physical energy to live. God never designed such a thing. He turned out to be smarter than all his angel children. He gave everyone heaven for free, other than in the rubble of galaxies. We should go back there and acknowledge God who warned, "This space heaven will not work out for you, but do as you see fit." 1875. The soul was created by God in such a way that it is eternally receptive, creative, wants to please others, loves to love and be content. And it does everything in this world so that it can realize these goals in itself. If she is denied this, trouble begins. The cosmos closes the way to this development. In the galaxy, trouble itself, disease, hatred, disasters of all kinds, and powerful competition for wealth and survival. Jesus spoke of this, of abandoning this imperfect world. It testifies to him that he had a head on his shoulders, that he knew the truth about the world, where it came from. That's why it's best from an early age to play with a toy that will later take us into an ideal world, tailored to the soul and its needs. This toy has been called self-salvation. It really is a lot of fun playing. There are moments like this. There are days, there are moments when everything seems bright, simple, and good. When your heart whispers caressing words, you see the world in new reveals. Yes, it is strong as lightning. You touch your forehead without believing the divine joy. There are those moments, dawning unexpected thoughts, unexpected feelings. Then it seems to you that you have understood everything. You avoid evil and touch the sun with your hands. You yourself don't understand it and ask how. Is it possible? A moment ago you felt lost, you despised yourself, and now incomprehensible treasures are coming out of you. You are surprised that you have risen at once. You are calm and satisfied like a singing troubadour. These are the moments when you are born again, and again love has overcome you. 1876. He who unites on earth with God, the most beautiful being, is the richest man, because no one can take this beauty away from him anymore. In God, he can possess anything he wants and not fear for anything. From now on, whether he possesses anything on earth or not, it doesn't matter much to him, because he has everything in God himself. And after death, he will receive it more than enough. God has never been poor and never begrudges anything to anyone. We made ourselves poor by not anticipating the consequences of leaving heaven. Although God warned what would happen if we gave up His power. But we did not listen. And we fell into civilizations mired in a struggle for existence. There is a way out. Jesus spoke of salvation from this extreme cosmic situation. But you have to take a personal interest in it. 1877. A person devoted to Jesus does nothing to deserve punishment. And if he experiences it, it is only from people who do not know the law of love. A pure person knows how to satisfy the senses of soul and body without harming anyone. 1878. Where there is pure intention, gentleness, prayer, and true service to fellow human beings, there is light and full satisfaction. Whoever adopts such a style of conduct will do well on earth and will raise his soul to the land of liberation. Thus, one must undertake such a work that leads straight to God and service to own neighbor in the name of love. Only in such a program of life can we calm our hearts. 1879. It is necessary to always pray for light for reason. Gradually, the answers to difficult questions will come. The more you unlock your thoughts, get rid of dogmatisms and hermetisms, the sooner you will understand the meaning and purpose of your life. Every law originates from sin. This is what St. Paul already said about it. Because what is the law for? To limit our evil. And sometimes it is the case that law and dogmatism just expand it. True love does not know the law, which is why it loves and forgives so easily. Love nullifies evil. 1880. He who loves by design the truth, which he does not even know, wisdom will not leave him, he will find the key to open the secrets. 1881. Reason does not explain everything, and the heart does not feel everything. There are mysteries that are not yet accessible to the soul living in the galaxy. 1882. To find own place in the world, to find partial truth, to taste the loftiest ideas, is something beyond humanity. Anyone who seeks can find it. It will still not be fullness, but it is something. Eternal excitement, in the cafe during Mass, on the beach, at dawn and sunset, at the great thought your hands tremble, your shoulders shrug, your face shines with gold. In such a consciousness you live that you try not to cast a shadow. Everywhere you create luminous landscapes, and from your hands flow dreams and charms. So there are no grounds that you do not see. You transform reluctant footage into continuous melody. There is no place on earth where your affection would not reach, where lines of gentleness would not appear. At the bottom of your own wings you are happiness. No more emptiness against you. Nothing is silent wherever you are, whether in a cafe, during Mass, or on a beach. 1883. Today no one knows anymore what the purpose of life is and how to really achieve it. Everyone is living, satisfying their needs, on top of which everyone blames and judges each other. Such guilt is not pure. It is a trick of ignorance. Ignorance blames us. If someone doesn't learn spelling, on a dictation, he will feel stress and insecurity. Spiritually, it is similar. One must know something about own soul, own consciousness. Otherwise, one will face inexplicable stress. To know something about St. Francis of Assisi, one must first read something about him. Padre Pio's words. 1884. We are stuck in total ignorance. Ignorance about God, the soul, and the visible world. Hence the burden of guilt. Once we clear our minds of perfunctory knowledge and learn true insight, we will gain knowledge. Guilt then will not affect us. If we want to talk about Satan and put all the blame on him, then we should talk first all about the robe of our ignorance, the robe of our flesh, which limits us and blinds us to the true pleasures of heaven. And they are pure, transcendent of every human action. Satan as a fallen soul, which we also are, exists, but he has his problems, just as we have ours. Perhaps God will cause him to repent at the end of time too, and stand at the right hand of God. Let's hope so. God's mercy is infinite. After all, pity every soul, every spark of God, and Satan is such a spark. For the time being, Satan is in big trouble. He is proud, and does not want to hear about conversion. In fact, so do the people in the cosmos. 1885. You can't continue to live in ignorance and dump everything on the devil. It is better to throw everything on God because he can handle everything. The devil can't handle it. That's why he is the devil. It's dishonesty to him, since we tempt ourselves. The taint on the soul is quite extensive. If we don't gain the knowledge of how to overcome ourselves, in order to become love itself towards others, we will create a civilization full of conflict and struggle. The decision is up to us. Let's not complain later that politicians behave badly, that doctors take bribes, that prosecutors are too harsh, that plant directors are corrupt, that there is finally a multitude of organized crime groups, etc. Where does all this come from? It is precisely ignorance, lack of education, lack of vision, lack of knowledge of human values that causes it. Too little knowledge in schools about the development of human character. Which school today talks about ideals and putting them into practice? None, so we have the world as we create for ourselves. However, it is worth changing this, if we want to have an efficient social system, without conflict and laziness. 1886. To be merciful, loving and just without exception to everyone. This is almost a utopia. But the Christian lives this holy utopia because he understands the teachings of Jesus, our friend from heaven, an additional guardian angel. Jesus doesn't care that some people prefer to hold rifles in their hands. Total criticism, hatred, rather than forgiveness and understanding of the cosmic problems we all, without exception, have gotten ourselves into. Whether it's communism or capitalism, or such parties, we all persist in bankruptcy as angels. And all of us will someday free ourselves from these various pits. But it will still take time. Each of us is personally responsible for our salvation. Death or life doesn't solve anything. It only prolongs the process of seeking God. It takes more than life, suffering, and death to wring something out of ourselves. 1887. To justify someone before God and on top of that guilty, this is not normal for people. But for a Catholic, it is the basis for achieving perfection. A Catholic understands why he lives on earth, for what reason he is here. He came out of heaven, agreed to it, and complicated his life terribly because of it. And he knows that many angels did it. All space civilizations are these very angels. So he understands his mistake. He asks God for forgiveness and forgives others from his heart. All current aliens did the same thing. They left heaven and now do not know how to return there. However, some know, but refuse to let go of playing with this material world they created, even though they suffer and die. That's why this purgatory goes on almost indefinitely. 1888. What happens to a person when he listens to his conscience from God? First, it cleanses him and puts him in the truth. Second, conscience restores joy and comforts the soul. It teaches love and speaks about the essentials of life. Therefore, happy are those who do not disregard conscience, the voice of God within us. Man is already at such a stage that he knows perfectly well whether he is doing right or wrong. Padre Pio's words. 1889. The law was created for a utopian order. No law will normalize suffering and death. What better angels try to limit evil with various legal regulations? This helps a little. But in general it is, as St. Paul says, that the law was created by the fall and sin. And it doesn't help anything. It happened because an unnecessarily God-independent, cosmic solidarity paradise was founded, which produced this law. Among others, the right to death, disease, and dangerous life. 1890. There is no law in heaven. Love lavishes goodness on everything and everyone. Many on earth would be surprised by this. 1891. The law, if it is already there, should not accuse to the bottom, but direct to the good sides of life and teach tolerance. Not to destroy for just anything. Even judges and prosecutors use tolerance, especially towards young people, because tolerance is also love, Padre Pio's words. And as we know, everyone in the cosmos has moments of weakness and can even kill someone in anger. Law, like school knowledge, should teach good behavior, not to hinder life, but to improve it for the love of neighbor. 1892. Angels, what followed the path of materialism, naturally forgot about God. 1. Nature definitely deters from God, too. By themselves coming into confidential contact with it, they experience the killing of transcendence in them. It is best to live in such a way as not to touch the earth with your feet. Our planet is not our destiny or home. It is a large spaceship controlled by cosmic materialists and atheists' angels. That is why there is so much evil on this earth. Heaven is far from earth, far from the crazy material worlds where pride and vindictiveness rule. 1893. You don't need artificial regulations to become an authentic person. It is enough to behave with dignity, culture, a smile and kindness. If you smile at everyone, you don't need any laws and commandments. You love and do what you want, just like in heaven. 1894. God cannot be reduced to a scientific search. This is the mistake of many worthy people. God is found in humility. The energy of spiritual power is found beyond the bioelectric nature of human consciousness. This is understood primarily by mystics. The soul is nothing electrical charge, not bioelectricity, but something much more. The soul is humility, goodness and boundless love. If scientific research touches this realm, they will find God. Let them study it with all their might, because the most impressions and discoveries are brought by this sphere. The multiplication table and Mendeleev's list of elements, Einstein's equation, are not enough. In fact, nothing. Free energy, as it is misnamed, is burying our soul in scientific theories, wrong almost 99% of the time. There is no free energy. In the cosmos, everything is converted into ego emotions. How much you generate it with your muscles and ideas, that's how much you have. Well, air, gravity, and others, these can be used. Even to them, we are unconsciously forced in molecular processes encoding them at the level of our cells in the body. When we grasp this, the hard part, it is necessary to create a new science based on spirit, not matter. From the example of the saints, we can conclude that one thought can transform matter, like plasticine. Alchemy. 1895. First, we need to get away from the brain and start thinking with the soul as we should. And this can literally anyone. And one does not have to have an education, completed material schools for this purpose. This university can be completed by anyone regardless of background in physical university or professional education. Because this university is the knowledge of the spirit, not the language of matter. A computer language that archaically and primitively counts and recalculates with only two numbers, 0 and 1, creating impossibly limited mathematical algorithms. We make monstrous mathematical, factual, ideological mistakes. 1896. It was the fallen angels who invented biology, computers with 0-1, or quantum software. All this is fallen mass. When we discover the power of God, we will be surprised, and very surprised. With God, everything is different, absolutely perfect. The soul is a spark of God himself. Some of these sparks departed from him and created the mental, astral, and biological world. They went astray. 1897. The sky is somewhere else entirely, beyond galaxies and universes. This world was set up as an anti-heaven, created by fallen angels, meaning us too. This is difficult to understand at the beginning of the spiritual path. Later, after many centuries of experience living in matter, everything becomes clear. Understanding comes with the help of inspirations from heaven, and science is laid bare. The claw of the worst in the universe's deadly material venom is revealed to it. Through science, we condemned our lives back in ancient times. Today, there are consequences. 1898. Only in solitude, with your morning coffee, will you understand the most in this world. Note, even when you pray in church, you always represent solitude. The fact that you feel the community of believers at the same time, this is not important. Friends will always deceive you into the concreteness of Einstein's false theory. They will do this unconsciously, because they use material eyes, hearing, and stomach hunger. You must attain consciousness beyond your senses. Activate the senses of the heavenly body. Then everything will become clear to you. Asceticism hymn, O dear Lord, If even someone does a lot of good and applies mortification in the name of love and thinks to himself that he is not obliged to repent, he is gravely mistaken, Lord. Everyone who does more and more good around himself has a clearer knowledge of his imperfect nature, and therefore greater humility should be in him. Greater sorrow, and thus greater gratitude. Who does not have this knowledge in his love? Even if he applied whatever asceticism, nothing will help him. Only submission to your Lord's will is the true expression of perfect love. 1899. Today's man is most ruined by a wrong view of life, and in it materialism. The matter of this heaven is an attraction, but not an attraction to eternity. The wiser just tolerate matter, because they know that everything will escape what it has given. 1900. Materialism in the initial stage is appropriate in knowing God. But after that it is different. It gets in the way. 1901. We go through different phases of understanding life. The young body on the soul generally goes crazy. The older body grows wiser and humble. Why? Because with the passage of time and experience, it learns what a trap life is in. Youth doesn't and can't see this, because hormones make their presence known. They communicate to the soul that it must develop in the body, flex its muscles, and necessarily reproduce. Women feel this biological push the most when it comes to having their first child. This is how they were scientifically coded by angels, who ate their teeth on material knowledge. In old age, hormones slowly withdraw, the body begins to dry out, shrink. And then, if one is eager for philosophical pursuits, one begins to wise up and learn about God. Youth is unlikely to know God, too much striving in the knowledge of matter. We are very dependent on the chemical composition of the body and its processes over time. Alchemy looks more into the eyes of mature people, not the young. However, life is fleeing fast before we know it. Youth transforms into maturity and old age. One must take advantage of this process to get closer to the source. Everyone has the same opportunities. It doesn't matter whether one is Jewish, Greek, Arab, African, European, Slavic. The soul has no nationality, nor any religion. Its lineage goes back to heaven, to God. And there everything is different, although we see symptoms on earth as well. Beauty, art, comfort, convenience, joy, delight. All this is a souvenir from heaven. But in earthly conditions, ignorance, maturation, we demolish, in large part, this magnificent, real and full vision of the soul. 1902. Music and imagery are of great importance in progress. The soul is formed in the material world, so symbols such as art and fashion are needed to express higher feelings. The levels of feelings are different, but one has to start somewhere. Therefore, no one should be judged, not even those who promote an exclusively material culture of being. By loving materialists and atheists, we are actually loving their good progress. They begin at this very point in their odyssey of discovering the God of their own soul. They must not be forcibly changed, because the results could be even worse. They have to come to this point themselves. It may take millions of years, but they will return to God. Time and space, biology, are their allies, although very difficult and utopian. 1903. Archangels of small matter will one day find out for themselves that God is the best. In God they will find all the same things that are of the world of matter, but at a very highest level. In heaven too, there is fashion. Everyone wants to please others. Here, nothing changes. There, beautiful films also exist. There are wonderful directors from unbelievable fairy tales that evoke contentment and delight. There is wonderful music. Atheists and materialists, or the angels of our galaxies, lose nothing really when they acknowledge the heaven of God. For there are unbelievable things there, and they have the opportunity to get high in them. If I had to say something else, I would add, eyeballs, pupils, they cover the entire heaven. And many Catholics, if they saw heaven now, might even be positively ashamed to see the forms of love that exist there. Padre Pio's words. 1904. Life cannot be based on disbelief in God and blind stubbornness. Such a stance, instead of making people's existence easier, will complicate it. Materialism, atheism tend to politicize life, make it religious, and above all reinforce ego beliefs. This is not luxurious for life. 1905. If you think about it, you will come to the conclusion that you can help others on the path of learning the mystery of matter. To free someone from limited views, from the pursuit of anxiety, can become your merit and the joy of the angels from heaven. Is it worth it to get involved? In my opinion, it is worth it, even if they would call you mentally ill, atheist, crazy, or ignorant. The original heaven should become the abode of all wanderers in the cosmos. 1906. Attitude to too many mental impressions, anchored in the matter of finite being, is a bit of an escape from happiness. The soul does not recognize material vibration, but it has been ensnared in it, unfortunately, with the help of our friends, the geneticists of the cosmos, who do not want to recognize the knowledge and capabilities of God. The soul is immaterial. She is an entity from another dimension. She observes, touches the world, delights in it, but in fact she does not want it, because it is too complicated in its sufferings. The soul has fallen, outlined her love, but subconsciously she always remembers the perfect world, so she has longings and desires. And the physical body in the material world drags the soul into trouble. Everyone has come to believe the fiction that this world was created by God and that paradise is here. This is what the manipulation of all the conflicting religions, reincarnation and karma, is all about. Everything thought out top-down by cosmic civilizations that have overarching control here, except God. God has nothing to do with galaxies, transformation of matter, or death of all. There is no need for an atomic bomb or an epidemic. Everyone will die anyway. God does not feed on the bodies of others as the civilizations of the fallen heavens, the cosmos, do. The soul doesn't do that either. But in the kolkhozes of the material galaxies, this is what happens. Everyone eats everyone else. There is no heaven here. This is probably already seen by everyone. To see this, you don't even need a high intelligence. But on the other hand, one must possess it to admit that God is right. By their fruits you shall know them. The fruits of the cosmos are of the bare kind, drenched in blood and suffering. And yet we are carried away by something to live here. It is our choice, even before we are born. You could say, by being born here we commit suicide. In one way or another we must die. Any sane person does not want to live where annihilation awaits. And in the galaxies this is the case. So what should we do? Jesus clarified the issue. Already in this life we should seek a new earth and a new heaven, beyond the material worlds. We call this today salvation of ourselves. The sacraments of our church will not help much in this. They are an invention of people. The church has locked up knowledge and does not reach for it itself, and does not allow others to reach for it. Padre Pio's words. 1907. Let your church be nature, the beach, your apartment, the newspapers you read, the stores you go to, the car you drive, the mystique of bodily and spiritual pleasure you love, the coffee shop where you drink your coffee, the catbirds you walk on in the market. Let everything be a church, if you're already talking about it. Temples can be that too, but not necessarily. Jesus didn't build a single one. He was talking about the temple of the soul. As usual, everything was done in its own way, against God and His selfless love. By living you die dying. You are resurrected to the eternal future, and everything seems to you as if it did not exist. For a moment you leave the earth to blast into the light of flowers. You find that you cannot touch simplicity or intricacy, and your cognition ends in non-cognition. And though you are unlearned, you stand by the truth. Thanks to your love for it, everything seems to you a way and a fulfillment at the same time. You fall in and out of orbit. You seem to be everywhere and in a place. You stand at the same time, and this is not an illusion but the truth of your existence, because you even believe in order not to believe anymore. 1908. God, here chop me, here impale me in the future. But I will deceive you anyway, because soon I will possess your paradise. Divine perversity, playing with God. 1909. If you cut off the branches, the tree can no longer cope. It can't cope, it will wither. If you neglect your body, eat badly, don't give it vitamins, you will destroy your body, and you will not be able to live. Even doctors will not help you. So take a little care of your health, so you won't complain about yourself later. Don't look for a miracle diet. Reach for the menus of our great-grandmothers and limit carbohydrates, sugars, a bit. Eat well, so that you won't complain later that your stomach hurts. Padre Pio's words. 1910. Here the training ground of emotions and values of the multiplication table continues. In this world everything must be calculated, otherwise you will die. Heaven is free and unlimited. We create how we want, how much we want, and where we want. This is what we need at the core, because this is the nature of the soul. The world disappoints us all the time. There was supposed to be paradise. That's what we agreed on millions of years ago. Now for that agreement, we can only wink and smile. But for that there is hope. 1911. Every nerve of the human body is hooked into the soul. Only the soul is sensitive. The nerve by itself has no value. It is dead. The brain, the main nerve, is just a highway for the soul. The brain by itself, in the same way, is nothing. When the body is not there, the soul thinks and reacts all the time. Outside the body, it does not just communicate directly with the cellular, biological, material world. It needs its senses for such communication. The soul is a different force than the body. Why are we currently in such a body? That's for everyone to guess for themselves. If you had water instead of a brain, you would still think. Padre Pio's words. 1912. In this world of ignorance and spiritual backwardness, mistakes are unavoidable. Since everyone makes them, our lives depend on the fate of many people. Even from politicians, and maybe even especially, since they have the power and influence over the laws that regulate social life. In spite of everything, in spite of the mistakes and unfortunate provisions of various constitutions, the ideals should be constantly reinforced and admitted to. Cultivate them, despite constant failures. It is to constantly strive for perfection in life. The desire for perfection should always be written at the end of all rules, official or company writings. Maybe someone would finally take notice that it is necessary to strive to be perfect in goodness and love. God doesn't look at your sins, but at your desires, and will let everything go if something doesn't work out for you. God loves, not judges. The words of Padre Pio, 1913. One must learn to drink the divine nectar that is beyond the cosmos, marked by constant, continuous, millisecond-counted death and suffering. This nectar is, if you get close to God, you will taste it. God always has an ear close to your mouth to hear your longings and needs. Padre Pio's words at all levels of life. When you hear God's assurances, then nothing in this world will matter to you anymore. You will become love for all. You will weep with great happiness, full of gratitude and adoration. 1914. If a fallen angel does something wrong, creates a silly thing, a gadget such as a dinosaur, which reigns over the globe for millions of years and eats everything and everyone, or discovers something interesting, sooner or later, it will use it against the other angel. And all because an imperfect world was created and a power struggle arose. Lack of power makes businesses, scams, murders of angels. So long as I am better off, and so that I have a guaranteed luxurious existence. In this world, even on the love of body and soul tries to make foul business, to use others for the satisfaction of the ego. The angels created the atom, and also millions of times smaller particles than the atom. The atomic bomb was also made to defend their territory. They created the laser. They made primitive laser tentacles, and will fight with them by guided missiles, or actually be laser swords for hand-to-hand combat. And what a strange world is this. Wiesław Matuch sang wisely, but he too was caught up in the death ray of the internally shattered angels, which controls birth and death on the globe. This world is infantilely irresponsible. Why do so few people see this? The lack of this sharp vision results in almost no one from this earth goes directly to heaven. Padre Pio's words. Before you, Lord, Lord, When I stand before your omnipresence in the midst of your eternal immensity, I stand and ask for nothing. When I abide in that wonderful silence where no breeze blows, no leaf rustles, where all things have lost their motion. O Lord, then what powers of yours are revealed, what incomprehensibility. At the same time you reveal yourself to me as the most tender bride. Full of care and sunshine on your face, I feel how then I develop most beautifully purely conscious of my being. But when you with your face turn to my soul, I acquire in myself the fragrance of heavenly happiness. The whisper of your holy lips reaches me. Entirely obeyed, I belong to you, Lord. How like a mother and bride you are. 1915. Evidence, as they are called, is not the ultimate truth. Rather, they are utopia and the birth of dangerous beliefs, the creation of a religion of death. Form is not truth because it changes constantly. Evidence and the question, why are problems of intelligence still limited? From the word why asked by the angels began the problem already in heaven, and then throughout the cosmos. Padre Pio's words. Love does not need to know everything and cling to everything. Freedom. 1916. In humans, everything is an induction, hypothesis, or concrete of little importance. Almost everything beautiful in us has been blocked, as if taken away from us. We have to work hard on everything, but still a lot escapes through our fingers. This is not coincidence or evolution. It's the concrete engineering actions of some scientific minds from outer space who have stopped loving and are entertaining themselves with molecular biology. The body we have is what we have. It is not our original body. The original without features is left in heaven. You have to get there so that you can make wonderful use of it. In heaven one does not have permanent qualities. Padre Pio's words. 1917. Who will believe, for example, that one Our Father means more than a trip around the fallen universe? No one, and yet it is true. Padre Pio once told us, prayer brings you closer to eternity, while a journey through the depths of the cosmos usually leads to confusion and failure to recognize the ultimate power of life. Any cosmos created by science obscures the eternal heaven and God. The cellular biological body, the cosmos woven from human atoms, not God's obscure God. God's universe is quite different, more beautiful and non-conflicting. It is necessary to return to it, and to abandon this one once and for all, as it is not a permanent home for us. Didn't Jesus, the famous thinker, mention this? 1918. Through speculation and proof of rationale, wisdom cannot be found. Wisdom is too subtle to be speculated and smothered with rationale. 1919. Although the cosmos is constantly subject to creation and destruction, the extinction of some suns and planets and the rise of others, the transcendental knowledge of God's love remains intact in relation to the universe. The true God and the material world are two different forces with little in common. God did not create the bulbs, and the universe is the biggest bubble that appeared in the consciousness and then outside the soul. But it must be corrected as much as possible so that it is easier and healthier to live in it. 1920. True mysticism in the minds of scientists is practically out of the question, unless such a mind is unbelievably humble and open to the hereafter. It was not science that created the spiritual, heavenly world. The material world, yes, was created by science and the imagination of fallen angels. Science and all the wisdom of the galaxies were created as a result of our departure from heaven, from God. A world was created that should not have been created, because it was not created by God, but by the hubris of the perspective science of the angels. Stellar civilizations know well that love, mysticism, and humility are a huge threat to science and power. For this reason, they hate all noble mystics and madmen of selfless love. Anti-education is going on all the time. Virtues, nobility, open love, non-aggression, perfection of attitudes are cleverly destroyed. Moment of eternity. While I wait for this joyful moment, my heart beats with great insufficiency. Sometimes it seems that longing is a great pain. It is born and passes away. Everything that is vigilantly fulfilled leads to happy islands. Talk to me about it. Talk to me. 1921. For the most part, angel humans are still too much materialists and egoists. They succumb to thoughts of themselves exclusively. They see themselves in terms of nationality, religion, family, glorify positions, boast of their education, abilities, and value peculiar arrangements. Such people find it difficult to believe in a selfless God. I would add that Jehovah was not a God and only presented himself as such. He was an ordinary alien. He messed up, enslaved the nations, and ran away. The true God is selfless. He wouldn't even set up a religion, because why would he? He gave us a soul, and it has everything we need in it to know true eternal life. Jesus knew the true God, and no religion he founded, no church he built, Padre Pio's words. But his words have been changed, most not even written down. Besides, no journalist at the time wrote down the words that Jesus spoke. Jesus himself, moreover, did not write anything down. This was done only after 70 years. Well, there was plenty of manipulation. And what happened in the following centuries? It was only getting blurred. Poor, uneducated humanity believed untrue things by the millions. The biggest lie was made by the priests. 1922. We learn from scientific calculations that our senses mislead us. These errors occur at the level of material experience, so all the more reason based on sense evidence cannot prove what is beyond the material realm. But it is necessary to observe nature, to wonder too, and to try to touch something to fix it if it is broken from its predecessors. The cosmos and the mind is a great laboratory. Once Padre Pio told me, too many experiments. There is no time for eternal experiments. Time is running out. 1923. After all, there is not a single reason not to associate a given thing or matter with God, whether it is of a good or evil nature. Currently, evil and good radiate from the freedom of the soul that God has created for us. But evil happened to only some souls. It has electrocuted all those who emigrated from heaven, assuming the cosmos as an alternative to the house of God. Well, and we are in it. That is, we took part in it. The backwardness in love is so great in this alternative heaven that the entire cosmos laughs at God, denies him, creates views, science and beliefs in order not to recognize the kingdom of God. The higher the civilizations, the greater the hubris and power over the universe. They make themselves gods, just like earthly priests, e.g. pharaohs or fanatical leaders, and today too. They set up opposing religions for this purpose, to stir sensitive souls in consciousness, so that they have a sense of confusion and confusion between their deities and the deity of the original God. Civilizations set on very subtle energies suffer less. Technology at a high level of development makes them able to move through space by thought propulsion. These Satanists with high aspirations have comforts, but compassion and love they do not retain. That is why a lot of planets in the cosmos suffer torment, destruction, and those greats of the cosmic world are the cause of this. Humanity, although it is on a very low cellular spin of energy, already has a heart like a bell. We are in the vestibule of heaven, Padre Pio's words, already very close to God. And the cosmos, the more perfect materially, the further it is from God. For our spiritual development, for knowing how to share and love, they hate us. But they too will be converted one day. They will become dust, ashes like us. Then they will understand their pride. We are already coming out of it, thanks to God, and even in part to Padre Pio. Because he gave us such knowledge, we can go faster into his chambers. 1924. Living by the Decalogue of reason, you can adore the beauty of the world. But there is a small problem. This Decalogue is not suitable for life, although there is good advice in it. But they are the advice of a certain cosmic formation, not God. The real God does not interfere in our lives. At most, we, following him, can interfere in his life, but only in the form of requests that he treat us mercifully for an act we committed a very long time ago because of freedom and curiosity. Our Catholic theology calls this issue original sin. They've flattened it a bit, like everything about the soul. There are few true saints in the church. The rest proclaimed so far are not in heaven, although they are venerated as saints. Padre Pio's words. 1925. One can absolutely benefit in life from everything that is touchable and untouchable. To a good person, everything will serve for good. And to a bad person, everything will be used for evil. If you have money, use it for good purposes. Then it is beautiful. Where does evil come from? Mainly from faulty knowledge, from lack of mystical education of our gray cells. From childhood we teach children evil, then it is done by school, colleagues, society. This is a fact. It is impossible to avoid evil because souls are born again on earth who were also uneducated in love in their previous life. So they bring their previous potential into this world. Even if he has his memory erased at birth, the baggage of experiences he carries with him will remind him of certain qualities he had before, and he will follow in their footsteps unconsciously. Good qualities should prevail, but the will makes different decisions, and there is a problem later. Padre Pio also told me, "You already came here with something. I promised something to God before descending into space. In spite of my storms and beaches full of sunshine, I go in this direction persistently." Education by example and word is the most important, although this example is the hardest to come by. Education is the most difficult field in life, yet the most beautiful. It educates the beauty of the soul. It is like a blacksmith, which from a piece of metal can forge something useful for others. And we are supposed to be for others, otherwise loneliness will get us in the rich forms of this world. You are to be for everyone, Padre Pio's words, 1926. The threat is always there, even from suffering. Suffering can seduce, it can be spread and have a foolish joy in it. A good example of this is criticism and not noticing noble intentions in others. This promotes building a powerful ego around ourselves. And then we think we are right, glorify our point of view, show ourselves as someone separate from others, independent. Then you generate suffering, e.g. on social networks. This is a common phenomenon. The approach is often, just because you like it I don't. Persuasion. Newspapers and television do the same thing. Constant intellectual warfare, war of conviction knowledge, fueled by hubris. Meanwhile, an interesting sentence was uttered by St. Paul. If anyone thinks he is something, while he is nothing, he deceives himself. Let everyone examine his own conduct, Gal 6:3. I spoke with St. Paul through Padre Pio. He remembers the earthlings. Guilt-free, in own trembling of unfathomable thoughts, where the gift of grace is most precious. Public confessions are made. The unbreakable thread of freedom, with immense spatial simplicity, thrusts the mystical gaze into the fervor of search of the dense masses of knowledge. Calls found at the bottom of the soul are not the superfluity of friendship, but the element of certainty in the supreme good. 1927. No computer compilations, no philosophies will not guarantee you eternal life. Even if you eliminate a few genes from the human body that cause aging of cells, you will still score death. No one, for all intents and purposes, wants to live on this earth forever and only longer. There are too many problems here. Eternity can be offered to us by the spirit of noble intuition, along with its holy angels of desire. 1928. Just as the parts of a complex machine require oiling in order to perform their functions efficiently, similarly, God-conscious people sustain themselves by constantly thinking about spirit or eternal happiness beyond the galactic. The fact that there are different civilizations in the galaxies, existing at different energy levels, and the fact that they even have non-cellular bodies, does not mean that they have not fallen. They all fell, which they decided to leave heaven. The knowledge of heaven used by the egos of the angels to create an independent world broke down. Alternative worlds to heaven were initiated. Our world is just such a failed world. All worlds, the physical universe, the mental universe, are failed worlds, despite the fact that we observe the development of thought and technology, as well as the possibility of very fast space travel. However, this does not exempt any being, the scientists of the universe and all federations, from converting to God. Like one, they have fallen. They cover themselves with science, knowledge, development, and their power. They are so devastated in their intelligence that they do not allow themselves to be shown the deeper way to happiness and eternal life. They keep tinkering with mental and physical structures. This is not enough to get God or remind themselves of Him. Heaven for all these beings is elsewhere. Someday we will all get there. There is no place like it. Mom God, 1929. If someone believes in God and has his eternal soul in mind, he has discovered why he found himself in the cosmic zoo. That is, in a universe that is very dangerous in every way. About now, he will not put too much effort in creating additional suffering. Such a person knows that his life, the entire population, the stars, everything is coming to an end. So he will not give all his heart to duplicating and supporting the fallen world. He will live insofar as, or rather, it will expand its consciousness to achieve what it intuits and firmly believes in: eternity and happiness. Higher civilizations than us learn, make progress, no more, and the finale is the same: no eternal power, which ends in wars and distaste. Even there were higher civilizations on earth than ours, the words of Padre Pio, and they too were destroyed. Few traces of them remain. To engage in progress without a heart gives little. At most, there will be a quicker death. It is better to focus own soul on knowing the beautiful and eternal God, from whom we came out, and to Him we should return. Once, a very long time ago, we betrayed His magnificent palaces and pleasures. Now, after our experiences in the failed universe, our imaginary land of prosperity and happiness, we should humbly return there. Which way should we follow? Through mystical consciousness, a consciousness that surrounds everything with love. 1930. A mystical person is above this world, and for the sake of pleasing God does not hesitate to act in any way. Although she is full of compassion and love, she helps and prays for those buried under rubble after an earthquake, for example. However, she remains unmoved in the face of happiness and misfortune, suffering and joy. Symptoms of such behavior are characteristic of people who have perfect transcendental knowledge and wisdom. Such a person understands life and knows who is the cause of unfortunate nature, earthquakes, accidents. So he pleads with God that this purgatory in the galaxies should end as soon as possible for the souls, and that they should find themselves in heaven, where nothing hurts anymore, nothing on the head collapses, where everyone is happy. However, those who wish to live on in the galaxies, in the universe, in the particles of physical or mental life that are beyond the jurisdiction of God, must reckon that their home will one day lie in ruins. The only way out of this situation is not to be born again in the hellish cosmos. This is what salvation is all about, Jesus said. It is best to make everything so that this is our last stay in the cosmos, Padre Pio's words. This is what he said to many people who already knew about reincarnation. Then we will have a holy peace with this circus on earth. 1931. Desires for happiness teach how to truly love, how to achieve complete freedom, and how to become spiritually fulfilled. If someone doesn't like to pray, all he has to do is desire happiness intensely, and he will achieve the same. Earthly happiness will easily rush him to the happiness of heaven. 1932. The impermanence of the world is overcome by desire, but the most beautiful desire that we manage to arouse in ourselves. Wanting goes beyond death, because the subtlety of the soul makes itself known. He who already wants so has so. No world philosopher, theorist, metaphysician, astrophysicist can take this away from him with their theories. Wanting. In heaven you need nothing. You don't have to do anything. You just want to. Padre Pio's words. 1933. If you know the truth, you will not succumb to total evil, because you live a life that is real, not inductive, not caring only about what we should eat and drink and where our boundaries lie. After all, the soul and consciousness have no boundaries. What is true is your desire for happiness, love, goodness, peace, and the all-attractiveness of life. Other truths are untrue beyond love and the warmth of existence. Others do not have the marks of heavenly sweet eternity. To comprehend the unity of races and souls, everyone should first understand this, so that they can then live in peace and harmony. Everything is possible. 1934. Perhaps let's start with this statement, that the human being as we see it with our eyes has had the gift of multidimensionality since time immemorial. Thanks to it, it has the ability to move between them without even fully realizing it. Generally speaking, a human being is always clinging to where something can bring him a sense of fulfillment. At the very outset, it is important to realize that, behold, this multidimensionality of which we are composed is very complicated for the average person, and at the same time extremely simple and light for people enlightened by love. 1935. Let's define who man is and why he's with him as he is. To better understand this, we need to distinguish in him the superficial mind with its anxieties, fears, and concerns, and the soul invisible and incomprehensible. These two subtle existences are intertwined, but you must also realize that it is your original, ancient self, ultimately unseen, hailing from another dimension, that moves your earthly mind, giving you a sense of individuality. Separateness is swimming in itself, and unfortunately, you can't live without it here. Separateness is the essence of individual I-ego. She gives you personality, name, surname, beauty, features. But this excessive separateness is dictated by something. There are cosmic reasons for it, the influence of other extraterrestrial civilizations, and it is not very favorable for existence in harmony and peace. The entire cosmos has gone in the wrong direction. It develops self-love excessively. On it, it builds communities, civilizations that cannot live harmoniously. Besides, all material civilizations in the universe have separated themselves from God. They go their own way. As it turns out, this is the road to death. No civilization wants to have God as its protoplast. They know about God, but don't even want to think about him, lest he reproach them for the greed and lack of love in which they wallow. Humanity has similar problems. However, there is a heavenly universe beyond the material galaxies, where there is perfect life, eternal life, heaven. We need to return to it, and everything will be normal. That is, divine. Great thinkers knew how it is. For example, Origen, Socrates, Aristotle, or Plato, and others. The councils of the church messed up the most. They dressed the spirit in bones. 1936. Human beings have to deal with human consciousness, that is, the small self, and divine consciousness beyond time, the great self. The dimensions of the human self and the divine self are easy to see. The experience of daily life precisely defines who we are and what we are like. There is no trouble in noticing this. Mystery of the paradise body. Mystery of the paradise body, fed with vivifying wine in streams of intimate pleasures, the imagination of my spirit with the land of heavenly touches. Blue rays of solitude call out, as if from the abroad of time, for those sunny fates of satisfaction. The seed of desires gives no rest, and I make it demand more and more precious energy. I slumber on the heartbeat of mysterious body. Tenderness of the sweet game expands. How many forms permeate this air? How much heartfelt security in this figure, and carries as a gift the reward for the desire for happiness. Full of beauty of enervated love in you, Lord, repeal more your attractions. 1937. The highest state of being is free from freedom. He is defined as a slave of the divine form of love. 1938. One who does not recognize the soul, only because he does not see and hear it, otherwise he would not be self-conscious. Therefore, he cannot know what the true path upward of civilization is. He does not know what a thing perfectly woven from pure motives is. So he cannot grasp what true economic, social, political order is, what true peace and tranquility in a nation is. Everything we call a perfect civilization can only flow from perfect thoughts, perfect feelings, and deeds. And how can this be accomplished without a perfectly developed interior? It can't. Social life depends on the human interior. How you think and perceive, so you act. What interior such laws in society? If we have a bad economy today, then the answer is already here. After all, in physical life too, we need to wash and cleanse the body. But what about when it comes to the soul, which has eternal trouble, knowing and placing itself in paradise. 1939. The power of the senses, or the use of the senses, is a good result of working on oneself, expanding spiritual awareness within oneself. This is exactly how St. Teresa the Great, Doctor of the Church, explained it. In God consciousness, the soul gradually comes into direct contact with the Almighty. The activities of the body eventually find a purpose in the soul. When the senses stop working, the body also ceases to be active. If the mind remains sober, even though the body is at rest, the mind will function, just as it does during sleep. So when the soul is united with God, then the other parts of the soul, such as the intelligence and senses, naturally follow this experience to unite with love. One can look at and experience from different angles. God is not a bore. He sends us everywhere, tells us to seek happiness all over heaven. It is worth remembering that words, feeling, desire, are spirit and life. 1940. If our mind is constantly engaged in loving anastamoses with God, the Veda and the senses have no opportunity to be preoccupied with anything other than love. And this gives peace of mind and the feeling that I am loved. But this is not just a feeling, but a certainty. No scientist alien can understand this because he still thinks with atoms and neurons. All the galactic heavens have collapsed the matter related to God. Earthlings, although they have been harmed and excluded by them, understand it better and have a greater track record in making contact with God. 1941. Through patience, goodness, kind gestures, kindness, and enthusiasm are born. Patience is the habitat of peace. It also works on the water we drink every day, and in which we bathe sweetly. 1942. We are Christians, and yet we show our impatience and constant rebellion at every turn. This means one thing: we have little to do with Christianity. 1943. The purpose of conscience is sensitive love, and love does no harm. So it is the perfect fulfillment of everything. If the conscience has flaws, there is a problem. Everyone has a conscience and knows where good and evil are. Padre Pio's words. 1944. Not on science and technology, not material goods depends on the life of man. Padre Pio's words. Children do not know science, and they are happy and joyful. They don't even know words, and they can love. Conversion. You see how difficult life is, the lower life even more difficult. Every moment not revealed related to the possibility in Christ abstract visions and everything moral. I think how to limit the visible choices of evil. No need to fear for the right of ownership of the feelings of life. Leadership should be given to the dignity of the highest imagination, which is related to the soul of history. It would be an act of basic statements and intentions to love anew. 1945. To declare a battle against evil can only be done by creating love from God's energy, not the other way around. Human love, cosmic love, is full of flaws. With an atomic bomb, we will not overcome evil. We will all die. Aggression breeds aggression, and love gives rise to the desire for good and kind pleasure. Love is the very benefit in every way. Padre Pio's words. Aggression, an eye for an eye, produces constant conflict and resentment. Even if one eliminates all those who think differently from life, new rebels will be generated to continue fighting windmills. The forces of life should be set up differently, and this should be taught in academies, universities, instead of aggressive scientific political science. How to set these forces? After all, everyone knows this, but does not come out with it, because they would lose money or be intimidated. This should slowly change. 1946. Human memory, human will, human expression, human talent can become a failure if they are let loose on their own political, religious, social systems. That is, if they are used by battles of egoism. Everything that is done without the idea of love, sooner or later, turns against man. This can be seen in every area of organized society. We must realize that evil is produced through an expanded ego that creates concepts and views for its own use, in order to raise the value of its hidden conceit in the eyes of others. Somehow, we need to get our act together and defeat the most powerful monster in the universe, hubris. 1947. Don't worry about anything as much as you can. The most important thing is to be calm. Even if prayer makes you uncomfortable, nervous, then don't pray. Admire the flowers, the birds. It will be 1,000 times better. Padre Pio's words to me. Troubles arise from various causes. In wars, innocent people are killed. Same here, a lot of suffering is not our fault, but the system of life itself. That's why it's necessary to understand this and not accuse ourselves. Smile at life and don't worry about anything. Chaos does not matter. It is everywhere, although there should be harmony. Someday all our beautiful longings will come true. But first, patience and understanding for others. In heaven, there will already be only happiness. And now we have some of our tasks to fulfill. So with serenity, let us carry them out. And with serenity, let us seek answers to everything, but with God. 1948. Perfection is a force independent of laws, statuses, and political systems. Therefore, it is possible to become an independent, holy man in any system prevailing on earth. It is easier to achieve this in a team, where the laws of true love rule. Holiness, goodness, love. It is no politics, no belonging to any organization, or even to parish communities. It is not a matter of profession, education, regulations, vows, etc. You can be a titled lawyer, create a law, and not obey it yourself. This is what happens. Holiness is something else. A different world that we get to know from within, and then it projects into the material universe, which is not our ultimate goal. It is too weak. If there are people with different orientations, and when they care about peace, balance, and happiness in life, then the only orientation must be love and tolerance, which is the manifestation of true love. No knowledge and ideological views can surpass the push for inner perfection. The divine reactor of happiness located in the soul works reliably. Even when we commit evil, it is still there, waiting to be ignited and started up again. 1949. In the galaxies, reality is sick. Only fairy tales are true, because they set the mood for hope, and hope is the queen of this life. In this reality, the goal chases the goal in all directions, and they give no peace. At the last human goal, we mostly die. Only hope soothes and shows a future beautiful, beyond the lead heavy matter of this world. 1950. From the beginning, God in his love for the angel, his child, left him absolute freedom. But this was lost by us, and we have problems with freedom, with the mind. We struggle with illness and fear. Now on earth, for some, only the reconstruction of the demolished palace of the soul is actually underway. Why for some? Because few in their creation of the spirit come out of diapers. They write books, make movies, rule the state, philosophize, politic, get habilitations, and still cackle in diapers. It's time to get out of the infancy. Humanity is still stuck in its infancy. The church has also fallen. Padre Pio's words. 1951. When I speak, my speech should flow from the heart, deal with essentials, and give words a clear meaning. I should not speak driven by hatred, but by moderation, using a tone that is gentle and pleasant. A blunt word can also be light and wise. Nowadays, words are like cheap, but sometimes the cheap ones hurt too. If they hurt, it means that you are unfixed in God 100%. You are littered with resentful pride. 1952. If I am always stimulated by the hope of happiness, and when I work in the field of learning about divine adventures, great virtues appear by themselves, without the slightest effort.